Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Mike Lindell at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98 for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Investigators in New York City have released additional information about the shooter involved in gunning down the CEO of UniteHealthCare on the streets of New York this week. We have the updates for you today. There have been a lot of rumors that President Joe Biden could be considering preemptive pardons for allies that he believes could be on President Donald Trump's target list. However, one of those being considered says he's not interested in a pardon and is suggesting to President Biden that he not offer the pardons. We'll give you those details as well. Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, one of the largest health insurers in the country, just found itself in hot water after proposing a plan that would stop paying for anesthesia when surgeries take too long. What are they going to do? Wake you up and ask you if you'll authorize the charges? We have this story for you, too. South Carolina Representative John McCravy has resigned his position on the powerful House Judiciary Committee, saying, "I'm less than enthusiastic about other bills recently emanating from the committee." We'll get the story directly from Representative McCravy later in today's show.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
The manhunt for killer of UniteHealthCare CEO Brian Thompson is still ongoing, and investigators are piecing together a growing list of clues that could lead to the assassin. Police believe the gun used in the attack is a modern version of a World War II spy gun. The B&T VP9, it was equipped with a silencer. Surveillance video shows the gunman expertly handling the weapon, which has not yet been recovered. Investigators are pursuing leads tied to the recent purchase of the firearm. The suspect stayed at the HI New York City Hostel on the Upper West Side of New York City. He checked in on November the 30th with a fake New Jersey ID. Surveillance footage captured his full, smiling face at the hostel, providing one of the clearest images of the killer to date. The gunman fled on an electric bicycle heading into Central Park. Police initially thought that he had used a Citibank bike, but later confirmed this was not the case. A backpack believed to contain the bike's battery was abandoned in the park near West 77th Street, but despite a massive search, it has not been found to date. And also, investigators recovered a burner phone and a water bottle near the scene. The phone used by the suspect just 10 minutes before the attack is being analyzed for data, while fingerprints found on both items may yield critical clues, and I would suspect they probably have DNA from those items as well. These developments come as the NYPD and the FBI are working tirelessly to solve the case, which has sent shockwaves through New York and the corporate world. Thompson was 50 years old, gunned down in a chilling targeted attack just outside of the Hilton Hotel on 6th Avenue. The manhunt continues, and anyone with information is urged to contact Crime Stoppers at 1-800-577-TIPS. We'll have additional information as it becomes available. All week we've talked about President Joe Biden pardoning his son Hunter. It's been one of the biggest news stories, if not the biggest news story of the week. There's been a lot of speculation of who's next. How many pardons will he issue between now and January 20th? Even rumors that the president is considering some preemptive pardons for those that he believes may be targets of President Donald Trump. People like Liz Cheney, Dr. Anthony Fauci, and Senator-elect Adam Schiff. However, one of these doesn't want a pardon. Who do you think it is? First, let's do a quick review. According to the reports from Politico, the Biden administration is considering preemptive pardons to some big names, including Dr. Anthony Fauci, as I mentioned, Senator-elect Adam Schiff, former Representative Liz Cheney. Now, how nuts is this? A preemptive pardon. It's kind of like a get-out-of-jail-free card, isn't it, for Monopoly? You can just kind of tuck it in your pocket and use it when you're needed, or if it's needed. Fauci, Schiff, and Cheney are no strangers to controversy. Fauci, of course, is under renewed scrutiny after a 500-page report by the House subcommittee investigated the COVID-19 response dropped this week. The report states that Fauci misled the public on critical issues, from lab leak theory to funding gain-of-function research. Of course, we knew that already. We didn't have to have this 500-page report to tell us that Fauci had misled us. It also claims that policies like 6-foot social distancing and school mask mandates lacked robust scientific backing, although at the time we were led to believe it was the law, that it was scientifically sound. So the question is, what else is working behind closed doors for the good Dr. Fauci? Then there's Adam Schiff and Liz Cheney, the faces of the January 6th Select Committee. Schiff, in particular, is already trying to distance himself from the idea of a pardon, telling Politico he wouldn't accept it because it would seem defensive and unnecessary. Defensive, huh? Why even consider a pardon if there's nothing to worry about? And let's not forget Miss Cheney, who partnered with Democrats during the January 6th investigation. She's been praised by the left, but has alienated most of her own party. If pardons are on the table, you've got to wonder what might be coming down the pipeline in a Trump administration that would warrant such protection. Here's where it gets kind of interesting. The catalyst for these talks seems to be President-elect Trump's nomination of Kash Patel as FBI director. Patel's not even in the office, and he's already creating fear. He's a staunch Trump ally. He made it clear that he plans to investigate those who, in his words, targeted Trump and abused their power. Well, who could that be? Who comes to mind? Adam Schiff, Liz Cheney, Democrats like Representative Brendan Boyle and Senator Ed Markey. They're sounding the alarm, urging Biden to issue blanket pardons for anyone who could be in Trump's crosshairs. Markey even compared the situation to Gerald Ford's pardon of Richard Nixon, calling it necessary to avoid revenge politics. They're just convinced that Donald Trump has been keeping a hit list and that he's going to spend his time and effort going after these people rather than doing what the American people elected him to do. So let me ask you, you think this is really about justice? Or is it shielding political allies from accountability? Mr. Patel's so-called enemies list isn't about revenge, it's about uncovering the truth. If Fauci and Schiff and Cheney have nothing to hide, why even entertain the idea of a preemptive pardon? Why are we even talking about it? Not surprisingly, this news has sparked some outrage. Critics argue that preemptive pardons imply wrongdoing, fueling public distrust in government institutions. And let's not ignore the political optics here. Coming right after Hunter Biden's blanket pardon, this move could further tarnish Biden's presidency if it can be tarnished anymore. Even the New York Times warned that Hunter's pardon could hand Trump ammunition to justify pardons for January 6th defendants. Imagine what a preemptive pardon for Schiff or Fauci would do. Meanwhile, Fauci's credibility is already in tatters. The subcommittee report exposed how he had pushed misleading narratives to discredit the lab leak theory and enforced pandemic policies that lack sound scientific evidence. The American people deserve transparency, not more cover-ups. We want the truth. And this is bigger than partisan politics. Preemptive pardons undermines the trust in our justice system. They create a perception that the powerful can escape accountability while everyday Americans like you and me face the full weight of the law. If the Biden White House moves forward with these pardons, it's not just a bad look, it's a dangerous precedent. So what's the bottom line here? The American people want answers, they want accountability, they deserve better than backroom deals designed to protect the elite. What do you think? Are these potential pardons about justice or just more political maneuvering by Joe Biden in his final days as president? Big news out of the Supreme Court this week. The justices are poised to issue a ruling on Tennessee's ban on gender transition procedures for minors. This decision could have sweeping implications for a wide range of gender identity issues across the country. The Biden administration argues that Tennessee's law, which prohibits medical procedures aimed at affirming a child's gender identity, violates the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. But Tennessee Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti, told the Daily Caller News Foundation that this case could go far beyond children's medical procedures. He said this could impact litigation on women's sports teams, bathroom privacy, and potentially other areas of the law, Skrmetti noting that the court's decision could set a significant precedent. Several conservative justices raised concerns about the long-term risk of gender-affirming treatments for children, pointing to European countries like the UK, which have recently limited such procedures. Justice Samuel Alito questioned why the administration dismissed evidence from studies like the Cass report, which highlighted the risk of these treatments. On the other side, you had Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson drawing a controversial comparison, suggesting the ban could undermine bedrock equal protection cases, such as those protecting interracial marriage. I'm not quite sure where that came from, not quite sure what that has to do with gender-affirming procedures to minors, something that could change their life for the rest of their life. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. If you've been putting off a visit to PhD Weight Loss, now's your time because it comes with an amazing free gift. Joey Hudson here. During December, the founder of PhD Weight Loss, Dr. Ashley Lucas, is giving the first 100 people to sign up for a consultation a free weight loss and energy supplement bundle. What a great gift. Do what I did. Take control now before heading into the indulgent holiday season. Get a grasp and avoid the holiday pounds. I dropped over 30 pounds and I'm not worried about parties and overeating because my PhD coach taught me coping mechanisms to help me enjoy holiday events without gaining the weight. Best of all, I never took a weight loss drug. I'm not dependent on a prescription. And I was never hungry. PhD Weight Loss is not about depriving yourself. Lose the awful belly fat, gain energy, and avoid weight-related health issues. You will feel so amazing about yourself and truly enjoy the holiday season. PhD Weight Loss. Ask about the free gift when you book your consultation. Call 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900 or go to myphdweightloss.com. Here's a story that perfectly illustrates what's wrong with corporate health insurance companies and their relentless pursuit of profits at the expense of patients. And when you hear this, you're going to think I'm making this up. And I have a pretty creative imagination, but not even I could make this up. Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, one of the largest health insurers in the country, just found itself in some hot water after proposing a plan that would limit payments for anesthesia care if surgeries exceeded a specific time limit. You heard me right. Time's up on the operating table, and the insurer wants to walk away. Now, how's that going to work exactly? Is the surgeon, if he gets to the point to where you have exceeded your amount of anesthesia, is he just going to stop the surgery? Have the anesthesiologist wake you up and ask you for permission to continue the charges? How would that work? Anthem claimed the policy, which was set to roll out in several states, was meant to, quote, clarify the appropriateness of anesthesia care using metrics from Medicare and Medicaid services. But let's call this what it is, a blatant money grab. This isn't about safeguarding against overbilling, as Anthem tried to argue. This is about shifting cost onto patients and squeezing more profits out of an already strained healthcare system. Thankfully, the public outcry was swift and fierce. Social media lit up with fury and fear, with people joking half seriously about being woken up mid-surgery because their anesthesiologist's clock ran out, just as I was suggesting. I mean, I have no idea how they thought this was going to work. And while Anthem has since reversed its decision because of the outcry, thank goodness, calling it a response to misinformation and that we had just not really understood what they were trying to do. The damage was done, though. This isn't just a PR misstep. It's a spotlight on how broken our healthcare system, how broken it is, and when profit comes before patients. Now, insurance companies have to make money. All insurance companies have to make money. I get that. But there's a limit to profitability. When you're kind of in a public service sector like this, you can make a profit, but you can't get greedy, particularly when it comes to people's lives. The American Society of Anesthesiologists wasn't having it. They were the first to object. They called the policy a cynical money grab and said it would jeopardize patient safety. Imagine being in a complex surgery where complications arise, and the anesthesiologist has to decide whether to keep providing care or leave you to foot a massive bill, because that's basically what would happen. They're not going to stop the surgery and wake you up. That's not medicine, though, as being proposed by Blue Cross Blue Shield. It's madness. ASA President Dr. Donald Arnold blasted Anthem for breaking trust with policyholders, saying this decision would lead to surprise bills ranging from hundreds to thousands of dollars. Now, these aren't hypothetical situations. We're making light, we're kind of joking. But if a surgery takes longer due to complications, like maybe unexpected bleeding or a challenging procedure, and I even text a good doctor friend of mine who was a surgeon. And he said, different surgeries can take a different amount of time. That you don't want to rush the surgeon. You don't want him having to hurry because he's afraid that you're going to run out of time with your anesthesiologist. And doctors shouldn't have to worry about whether their services will be reimbursed. The idea that a corporate policy could override medical decisions is terrifying, but yet it kind of happens every day with health insurance. So what we were faced with here is that you might wake up from the surgery and get your bill a few weeks later and see where Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield had paid part of the anesthesiologist, and you're going to have to pay the rest. That's what they were proposing. Now, here's the kicker. Anthem, now rebranded as Elevance Health, isn't exactly struggling. This is a company that reported a 24% increase in net income last year, bringing in $2.3 billion as of June. Yet they were ready to roll out a policy that would have left patients holding the bag for life-saving care. It's corporate greed, plain and simple. Fortunately, lawmakers across the political spectrum stepped in. For example, Connecticut Controller Sean Scanlon said his office intervened after hearing from concerned residents, successfully stopping the policy in the state of Connecticut. Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut called the plan appalling. And State Senator Jeff Gordon, who's also a practicing oncologist in Connecticut, penned a powerful letter slamming Anthem for putting patients' lives at risk. Governor Kathy Hochul of New York, for once, I agree with her, didn't mince words either, calling the proposal misguided and pushing Anthem to reverse course in her state as well. Even New York State Senator Mike Ganaris vowed to introduce legislation to prevent such policies in the future. Folks, and again, this isn't just about Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield. It's about our healthcare system and where we are, where companies are constantly looking for ways to cut corners to maximize profits, often at our expense, at the expense of patients, and at the expense of doctors as well. The fact that this policy was even considered tells you everything you need to know about the priorities of some of these insurers. Profits over patients. So here's the bottom line. You and I should not have to worry about surprise medical bills because an insurer arbitrarily decides to cap anesthesia coverage, because some bean counter in a high-rise somewhere decides that it should take a surgeon a certain amount of time to complete a certain surgery. How do they know? And as my friend, the surgeon, indicated to me, all kind of things can happen during surgery. Routine surgeries can change mid-surgery. You can have excessive bleeding. You can get in there and come across something you weren't expecting. And it can change the whole dynamic of the surgery. Health insurance exists to provide peace of mind, not to create more stress, and that's what this would have done. Anthem may have backed down this time, but who's kidding yourselves? I can bet you the fight's not over. I can bet you they're going to try to come up with some other creative way to do this. Do you think this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to corporate overreach in healthcare? Should lawmakers step in to ensure something like this never happens again, or that they don't even think of it again? Love to hear from you. Your comments are welcome. You can text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Email's always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. Continue today's show. In the South Carolina House of Representatives, most representatives want to be on the very powerful House Judiciary Committee. In this case, we have a longtime representative who has decided he no longer wishes to serve on that particular committee. On our guest line today from Greenwood, representing South Carolina House District 13, Representative John McCravy. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Joey. How are you doing?
I am wonderful. I got to say, this is a bit of a interesting conversation, because I'm not sure people resign from the House Judiciary Committee.
Well, I don't know of anybody that ever has. Most people want to get on the committee, but, there's a time for everything. And like the Bible says, and I posted, there's a time for everything under heaven. And there's a time to go along and get along with people, but there's also a time to stand up for what's right.
Yeah.
So that's what this is about. It's not about personality conflicts. It's not about that kind of thing, but it's about standing up for what's right.
Sure. All right. So you sent a letter of resignation to Chairman Weston Newton. You copied, of course, the Speaker of the House, because I'm assuming that you'll want to be reassigned to another committee. So kind of walk us through that process and talk with us about, whatever you feel comfortable telling us about why you decided to step down from the Judiciary Committee.
Well, I always want to be somewhere, Joey, that I can be effective. And, since I was appointed 8 years ago, actually, to this committee by Greg Delaney and former Speaker Lucas, they had a lot of confidence in me, and they put me on that committee from day one. And I've always been able to get, and then I was promoted to a sub-chair, and we were able to get some great legislation out of that committee, pro-life legislation, protecting the family from numerous, human trafficking, fentanyl bills, that kind of thing. I mean, just on and on. I can't tell you how many great things we've been able to do in judiciary. But the current chairman and I have butted heads on several issues, and that's just the truth of it. I opposed this hate crimes bill that came out of judiciary last year. It had some woke provisions in it, obviously, that, had to do with gender, had to do with the Bostock Supreme Court case, all these kind of things. And it was a flawed bill, and I opposed it. And I don't think my chairman liked that, And I opposed some other things like, I advocated for the Save Women's Sports Act. I think we have a difference in philosophy there. I opposed this multi-billion-dollar corporation coming in that wanted to finance and fund an effort to get 24/7 liquor in South Carolina. You know, the mom and pops weren't even happy about that, and they wanted to stop that bill because it would have put them out of business. But you know, there's a lot of money. We had 6 lobbyists sitting out there lobbying for that bill, paid by this gigantic group. You know, I protested that, and I called out the fact that we had all those lobbyists on the floor being paid at the same time, and I don't think, you know, our chairman was actually in favor of that bill. So, you know, we butted heads on that. And, you know, it's not just about that. I mean, I don't agree with everybody on every bill. And then we had the pari-mutuel betting bill that I didn't want 95. They wanted to institute pari-mutuel betting in South Carolina, where 95% of the profits would go to these offshore gambling organizations, and I could not condone that. And so I fought that bill on the floor as well. That was another bill that came out of Judiciary. So I believe that, you know, I don't blame him actually, but I was advised yesterday that I was being removed as sub-chair on that committee, and my leadership would be taken away from me as far as being able to get bills out. Now they put me on as a vice chair, but nevertheless, it would render me ineffective. And frankly, the last 2 years I've been ineffective anyway on that committee. We've had to get good family caucus bills going other places and different things. So, you know, it's a time for everything, and it's time for me to move somewhere else where I can be effective.
Yeah. On our guest line today, Representative John McCravy, and we're talking about him stepping down from the House Judiciary Committee. So talk with us about what committee you may potentially serve on, and also kind of explain the process here for our listeners who may not understand about committee assignments as far as, you know, how bills are assigned to particular committees. Right.
Well, of course, the way committees are staffed is the speaker actually staffs the committees as to who is on the committee. He appoints everybody on some committee or more. I'm also on the oversight committee, but he appoints those. But the chairman of the committees then take over, and the chairman decide, you know, what bills can get out in their committee, and what bills are allowed a hearing. They decide who gets the bill, which subcommittee chairman gets that bill, and that kind of thing. So they appoint those, and you know, so that's kind of the process. And we organize every 2 years. So we organize right after the election. So we were organizing this week, and so that's kind of how it works. And so I want to be somewhere, Joey, where I can be useful. I'm going to always speak out for life. I'm going to always speak out for liberty. I'm going to always speak out for faith and the family.
Yeah.
And nothing's going to, no, it's not worth it for me to be on any committee or in any position. I'm not going to trade a position for what's right. And so that's my conviction, and I felt like it was time for me to move on out of this committee, because I'm not going to serve on a committee where I can't advocate for what I believe in.
Yeah, and that's understandable. Yeah,
and maybe effective.
Yeah,
you know, I'm not saying anybody would make me be quiet verbally, but being effective is another thing. So, you know, you can get up and talk on a committee and say anything. We've had some crazy things said by people on committees before, but the real issue is whether you're able to be effective and get things out. And if I can't be effective, I'm certainly not going to be. I'm going to be somewhere where I can be effective, and where we can continue to have put forth what the voters want in this state. You know, we had a red wave, Joe.
Yep.
We should be. We've got a super majority, but yet we're fighting Democrat bills still. Why is that? You know, it doesn't need to happen. So I'm strongly in favor of a lot of our Republican caucus agenda is good. I mean, I support it, our GOP agenda is really good. I support it 100%. But supporting an agenda and actually getting it done are two different things. And certainly, you know, our family caucus has an agenda. You know, we want to protect life. We want parental rights.
Yep.
In medical, you know, all these issues. There's so many issues. We want parental rights in education. We want to dismantle the DEI stuff in our state, and we've got a lot of things on our plate that we need to get through. And if I'm not going to be on a committee, I just don't want to serve on a committee that can't help us with that, and we can't go forward. So
sure.
Anyway, that goes into my decision, and it's nothing personal. You know, I wish that committee the best. I hope it turns around. I hope we get out bills that are solid Republican bills this year. And I hope that's what starts out. And maybe this will draw attention to that. I hope it does.
Representative John McCravy. Yeah, Representative John McCravy with me today. So, you know, the voice of the people was heard very loudly. As you mentioned, we have a red wave here in South Carolina. And I think the people of South Carolina are expecting members of the South Carolina legislature to do just what you were saying. You know, there's no reason why a Republican-dominated legislature can't pass Republican legislation. I mean, do you think this is potentially the beginning of maybe we're going to have some issues with some of that more conservative, family-oriented legislation?
Well, you know, I hope we do. And that's been my prayer. We've been very successful in the past. I cannot deny that. You know, up until now, I mean, just like last year, in the last session, we passed the Help Not Harm bill. We passed the Heartbeat bill number 2 that actually got it through. You know, we passed a lot of bills that were good for the family. But at the same time, we're competing for time against these Democrat bills that we've had to deal with in judiciary. So we don't need to deal with that anymore. We need to move on with the people's business here.
Yep, I agree with that. Representative John McCravy, it's always a pleasure. I admire what you do, and wherever you land, committee-wise, they'll be good to get you because there's no one harder working in Columbia than you, and I wish you luck there and look forward to hearing where that is.
Thank you, Joey. And I'm sure wherever the speaker puts me will be the right place. I have all confidence in him, and his agenda is great.
Yeah.
So I look forward to great things happening.
Sure thing. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Joe.
Whether you're replacing a broken appliance or maybe you're just upgrading, you're totally remodeling the kitchen, when it's time to get those new appliances, when you're ready for them, you don't want to have to wait weeks or even months to get started using them, right? Well, that's not the case when you shop with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. With over 11,000 square feet and 1,500 appliances at any given time, you can buy today and use today quite often. I'm talking about shopping with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens. It's worth the short drive over to Pickens. Jeff, Johnny, Kyle, the whole team over there, they'll take good care of you. They have an award-winning service department, expert installation, extended warranties, and at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they treat you like family. You're more than just a credit card swipe to all the team over there. Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they're proud to offer Speed Queen, the only washer and dryers with manufacturer's warranties that cover parts and labor. You owe it to yourself if you're looking for a new appliance to head over to Pickens to Discounted Appliance Warehouse online at dawpickens.com, dawpickens.com. We'll get to your text messages in just a minute. I've had a lot again and some emails as well. First, The Hill is reporting that embattled Defense Secretary nominee Pete Hegseth is facing mounting opposition from Republican senators. The Hill says that this is putting his confirmation in serious jeopardy. Despite his defiant declaration this week saying, "I'm not going anywhere," insiders say that the nomination is on, quote, the death watch, with as many as 8 Republican senators reportedly ready to vote against him. Adding fuel to the fire, President-elect Donald Trump has reportedly floated the idea of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis as a potential replacement for the Pentagon role, signaling waning support for Hegseth's troubled bid. Sources say this move originated directly from Mar-a-Lago, further undermining Mr. Hegseth's chances. This is going to be a tough one. Going to be another one kind of like Matt Gaetz. And I'm sorry for Pete Hegseth. I've enjoyed watching him on Fox. I don't know that he can go back to Fox under these circumstances. It's kind of like Matt Gaetz. Things just kind of have blown up for him. Hegseth's nomination has been plagued by allegations of misconduct, some of which have been accusations of sexual assault at a 2017 Republican Women's Conference, a whistleblower report describing him as frequently intoxicated while leading Concerned Veterans of America, and claims of pursuing female staffers. Hegseth, of course, has denied the allegations, calling them a manufactured media takedown. But it appears that some of the Republican senators are listening and have concerns. Senator Joni Ernst, a key Republican on the Armed Services Committee, has withheld her support so far, citing the need for a thorough vetting process. Ernst is a strong advocate for military sexual assault reform. She emphasized the importance of addressing the allegations head on. And that's what we're hearing from other members of the Senate is they want to hear the details. They want Pete Hegseth in front of them and answering their questions. Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina defended Hegseth against anonymous accusations, stating that they don't count unless the accuser comes forward publicly. But Graham also warned that he would take any testimony seriously if the accusers chose to speak before the Senate. The nomination's fate could hinge on an FBI background check and Mr. Hegseth's willingness to respond publicly to the allegations. Senator Mike Rounds urged Mr. Hegseth to address the accusations in detail, calling it an uncomfortable but necessary part of the process. So with Trump's apparent openness to maybe consider someone other than Hegseth and bipartisan concerns looming, this nomination may have a tough time. I hate to say it. And it kind of goes back to some of the when the issues with Matt Gaetz first came up, and a number of members of Congress said, hey, we're going to support the president. If the president wants this person, we'll support them. But in this case, it appears that maybe even Donald Trump is having second thoughts. We'll see. On the text line, Dom from Illinois, he says, hi, Joey. I'm sorry, but I just can't share your enthusiasm for the new department headed by two multi-million, if not billionaires. Yes, they're billionaires. Dom, I can verify that for you. He said, I love President Trump and truly believe he's the best person to clean up the mess the Biden crime cartel and deep state have created. However, two multimillionaires whom I highly respect are hardly the people that know what we, the people, need or going through. I hope I'm wrong, but how do we know that they're not going to cut someplace the American people need, but because of their financials, have no clue that we need it? They don't. An example, because they don't eat bread, they cut the department that makes it, never thinking that there are tens of millions of us that like and need bread. Just playing devil's advocate, but it is a valid concern. Another example, a millionaire could care less if gas goes up to $10 a gallon, but it would be devastating to the rest of us. I hope I'm explaining my view on this. I share your enthusiasm for this new department, but mine might be a little more guarded than yours. Your red speck in a sea of blue, Illinois, although my county in Illinois thankfully went Trump. Dom. Thank you, Dom. I appreciate that. I always get some, I always love my emails and my text messages from Dom in Illinois, and I get what you're saying there. You know, it's hard for a man like Elon Musk to know what people like you and me go through. And you're right. You know, $10 a gallon gas wouldn't matter to him. Of course, he drives an electric vehicle anyway. I suppose. I guess he drives one of his own Teslas, right? But I understand. You know, people, and that's what's wrong with politics to a degree. You have people like Joe Biden, who has spent 40 plus years in public service, or at least he calls it public service, serving himself as a U.S. senator. There are things that he didn't have to do. He never had to drive himself around. The only time he drove was when he was in his beloved Corvette and he wanted to. but he was driven around, just like as being vice president for 8 years and now president for 4 years. He's waited on hand and foot. He does not know what it is to go out and buy groceries. Hasn't had to do so for many, many years. Texter, yes, Joey, I am a victim of one on marijuana and no to releasing this man. While in my yard, this man beat my dog with a metal rod. Oh, my. Think what he could have done to me if he had broken into my house, as he told authorities he'd planned to do. Thankful this was not allowed to happen. I'm taking it, what you're saying is that someone who was high after smoking marijuana attacked your dog. That's horrible. Texter, good morning, Joey. Zachary from Anderson here. How can Biden legally pardon someone for crimes they haven't been charged for yet? Doesn't that exceed the scope of a pardon? Well, that's the debate that we're having right now, and that I'm sure Joe Biden and folks on his staff are having among themselves. I've asked a few folks that I know that are much smarter than I when it comes to the Constitution, and, they say that the president's pardoning power is pretty much unlimited and seem to think that he probably could do this. The problem is he could issue the pardons, and the only way we're going to know the answer to that would be if someone literally sued and challenged them. And then it would end up in a long, drawn-out court case and probably in front of the Supreme Court to decide. Texter, good day, Joey. Ray from Seneca here. Newsmax is reporting that only 6% of federal employees show up for work each day. There's a lot of savings in government spending to be realized by eliminating these positions. Also, we pay almost $200 a year, $200,000 a year to the representatives and senators. They should have 2 weeks of vacation, and other than that, be required to be at work 95% of the time or be terminated just like all the rest of us. Put that and term limits in place, and most of our government problems go away overnight. If they would only make me king, I'd fix it. I know how. Well, hey, Ray, you need to join Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. Join the Doge committee. I'm sure they would welcome your assistance. Texter, hey, Joey, it amazes me that people ever gave Al Sharpton the time of day. He's a rat, a snitch. How did a guy ratting on the mob in New York get his own show on a cable network? Bet he's still on the federal payroll. Look, Al Sharpton is on anybody's payroll who will write him a check. He loves money. And as we have known over the years, anybody else who's done things that Al Sharpton has done, like the rent control department in New York City. He had like two side by side. And he was making probably millions of dollars a year, and he was living in a rent control apartment that should have gone to someone who needed it, not him. He could have paid for it. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.